Sometimes life doesn't knock, it barges in. It flips your world upside down, leaving you shattered, breathless, and broken in places you didn't know could feel pain. And in those moments when dreams blur and hope fades into silence, we often ask ourselves, how do I go on? But you see, success doesn't come to the loudest, not to the strongest, not even to the most talented. It comes quietly, steadily to those who show up every single day, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts, because consistency is not just a habit. It's a silent promise you make to your dreams when no one's watching. It's wiping your own tears, standing up with trembling legs and whispering, "Oh, one more step. Just one more. This is not about being perfect. It's about being present. Not about taking giant leaps, but tiny steps with giant faith." So if you feel like giving up, let this be your reminder. The real secret to success isn't a miracle. It's you refusing to quit. Over and over again, that consistency builds resilience, not just results. Small steps every day are stronger than rare bursts of greatness. Discipline outlasts motivation. Progress is born in silence, not spotlight. Success honors those who stay, not those who start. That consistency builds resilience, not just results. It's easy to admire the final picture of success. The applause, the recognition, the peak moment that everyone sees. But what no one tells you is that the true foundation of that success is often hidden in the quiet, lonely hours of repetition, of showing up when it would have been easier to walk away. Consistency is the silent builder, the force that constructs inner strength layer by layer, far before any visible outcome ever appears. When we talk about resilience, we often think about bouncing back from failure. But real resilience is not just about bouncing back. It's about standing firm when the world gives you every reason to collapse. It's about getting out of bed when your heart is heavy, when your mind is clouded with doubt, when your body feels exhausted, and yet you still take that one step forward. That power doesn't come overnight. It's born from 1,000 days of showing up, of trying again, of refusing to quit. Consistency teaches you to keep walking even when the path disappears. Because success is never a straight line. It's messy, uncertain, often cruel. There will be days when your efforts feel invisible, when no one claps for you, when your voice trembles, and your progress feels painfully slow. But every time you choose to keep going, you're not just chasing a goal. You're rewriting your own story. You're becoming someone who doesn't rely on perfect conditions to take action. Most people wait for motivation, but motivation is a feeling. It fades, it shifts, it lies. Consistency, on the other hand, is a decision. It's what you hold on to when inspiration runs dry. And the more you commit to it, the more it reshapes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants success, and you begin to realize you're someone who's earning it. One act of courage at a time. With each consistent effort, you stretch your capacity. You start to realize that the goal was never just about the end result. It was about who you became through the process. And that person, that version of you is stronger, braver, more grounded. Because while others were waiting for the right time, the right feeling, the right chance, you were building. Quietly, fiercely. Resilience grows not in comfort, but in the decision to stay committed through discomfort. Every time you showed up when it hurt, when you were scared, when no one believed in you, you were planting the seeds of strength. Not the kind that roars, but the kind that endures. Small steps every day are stronger than rare bursts of greatness. In a world obsessed with overnight success and grand gestures, it's easy to believe that transformation happens in a single moment. But the truth is, greatness isn't born in chaos or sudden brilliance. It's crafted in the quiet discipline of the everyday. Those tiny, often invisible actions we take, day after day, are the ones that carry the most power. It's easy to be inspired for a day, maybe a week. We make plans, we set goals, we promise ourselves change. And for a short while, we pour our energy into it with everything we have. But when life gets hard, when motivation fades and reality sets in, most people stop. They wait for that next wave of energy, that next perfect day to start again. But perfection doesn't build anything. Momentum does. And momentum only comes when we keep moving, even if all we can manage is a single step. Small steps don't look impressive. They won't get you applause. But they teach you something much more important, the art of showing up. They teach you how to keep promises to yourself. Every time you take a small step, whether it's reading one page, walking for 5 minutes, writing a few lines, or simply choosing not to quit, you're telling yourself that your growth matters. And over time, those tiny actions add up in a way that no single moment of greatness ever could. It's the same with healing, with growth, with any form of transformation. You don't wake up one day completely healed. You don't become strong in a single gym session. You don't master your craft by working at it once in a while. You build all of it slowly, through repetition, through presence, through choosing to show up even when nothing seems to be changing. And the beauty of small steps is this: they are possible even on your worst days. When everything feels too heavy, too broken, too far gone, you can still take a breath. You can still move 1 inch forward. And sometimes, that 1 inch is all you need to remind yourself you're not stuck. You're still trying. You're still in the fight. It's not the people who sprint once who reach the finish line. It's the ones who walk, fall, get back up, and keep walking. Because every small step is a commitment. Every small step is proof that you believe in something bigger than the pain of the moment. It may not look like progress to the world, but deep inside, something is shifting, something is growing. And that growth, the kind that's born out of patience and persistence, is the most powerful kind of growth there is. Small steps train your mind to stay focused, your heart to stay grounded, and your spirit to keep believing even when there's no evidence yet. They remind you that success isn't about how fast you get there. It's about how true you stay to the path, even when it's long, even when it's hard. Discipline outlasts motivation. Motivation is beautiful when it's there. It fills your chest with fire, pushes you to start new things, gives you that sudden rush of inspiration. But the truth is, motivation is like a guest that comes and goes. It shows up without warning, and just as quickly, it disappears. You can't rely on it to carry you through the hard days, because when life gets overwhelming, motivation will often be the first thing to leave. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is the quiet strength that doesn't wait to feel good before it acts. It's the voice inside you that says, "I'll do it anyway." It doesn't care if it's raining outside, if you're tired, or if the world feels heavy. It shows up again and again and again. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because you made a commitment, and that commitment matters more than your mood in the moment. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't always feel rewarding. In fact, most days it feels ordinary, even boring. Waking up early to train when you'd rather sleep, choosing to work when distractions are everywhere, saying no to the easy way out over and over again. These don't feel heroic in the moment, but they are. Because every disciplined choice is a silent victory over the weaker part of yourself, the part that wants comfort over growth, pleasure over purpose. People often ask how successful individuals stay so motivated. The truth is, many of them aren't. They're disciplined. They've trained themselves to move forward whether they feel like it or not. They don't wait for perfect timing, or ideal conditions, or inspiration to strike. They act. And because they act, results follow. The ones who win are not always the most talented, but they are almost always the most consistent. Discipline gives you freedom. It may sound like a contradiction, but it's true. When you practice discipline, you're no longer at the mercy of your feelings. You don't have to negotiate with yourself every morning about whether or not you should keep going. You already know the answer. You've already decided. And that clarity, that power to choose your actions, no matter how you feel, is what sets you apart. There will be days when you wake up and everything in you wants to stop. You'll doubt yourself. You'll question the purpose. You'll wonder if it's all worth it. And in those moments, motivation won't help you, but discipline will. Discipline doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't care if you're scared. It doesn't need permission. It just acts. That's what gives it strength. That's what makes it last. Discipline builds something inside you that motivation never can trust. When you're disciplined, you start to believe in yourself, not because things are going well, but because you've seen yourself keep going even when they weren't. That belief, that unshakable trust in your own ability to endure, is what separates dreams that die from dreams that live. And the beautiful thing about discipline is that it's a skill, not a gift. You don't have to be born with it. You just have to start. Slowly, repeatedly. You build it the same way you build a muscle, by using it even when it hurts. especially when it hurts that progress is born in silence, not spotlight. The loudest part of any journey is often the beginning, when the idea is new, the energy is fresh, and the excitement is too big to contain. People talk, post, share their plans with the world, hoping for applause before the real work even starts. But true progress doesn't happen there. It doesn't bloom in noise or celebration. It happens in the quiet, unseen spaces where no one is clapping and no one is watching. It happens in the early mornings when the world is still asleep and you're up doing the work. It happens in the late nights when you're tired but still choosing to learn, to grow, to push forward. It's built in the silence between big moments, the part no one talks about. The repetition, the failures, the solitude. That's where progress lives, in the everyday struggle. In the moments when no one is cheering for you, and yet you keep going. People often search for validation as a sign they're on the right path. But the truth is, the most powerful growth doesn't come with approval. It comes in isolation, in the absence of praise. Because that's when your why is tested. That's when you find out if you're doing this for recognition or for something deeper. If your drive depends on applause, it will fade the moment the audience leaves. But if your drive is rooted in purpose, in conviction, then silence becomes your greatest teacher. Silence doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter you. It mirrors back your truth. It shows you who you are when there's nothing left to prove. It strips away the noise, the distractions, the need to impress, and what's left is real. Raw, honest. That's the space where real progress is born. Not polished, not perfect, but honest. And honesty creates strength that can't be taken away. You see, the world only sees the result. The transformation, the highlight. But it's never about the result. It's about the climb, the lonely climb no one sees. The nights you cried and still kept going. The times you failed and refused to stop. The battles no one knew you were fighting. That's what shapes you. That's what builds the kind of progress that lasts. It's easy to look at someone's success and think they had it easy. But behind every visible win is an invisible war. A journey filled with doubt, setbacks, and silence. And it's in that silence that character is built. Vision is sharpened. Resilience is tested. That's the part of the story most people skip. But that's the part that matters most. Progress that's built in silence is solid. It's rooted. It doesn't sway with opinion or fall apart when things get tough. Because it was never built for approval. It was built for growth. Quietly, slowly. And that kind of progress becomes a part of who you are, not just what you do. When you learn to honor the silent parts of your journey, you begin to understand your own strength. You begin to value your own effort, even when no one else notices. You stop needing noise to prove your worth, because you've seen what you're capable of when the world is quiet. Success honors those who stay, not those who start. Beginning is easy. It's filled with hope, with energy, with possibility. The idea is fresh, the dream is exciting, and the heart beats with purpose. But time has a way of testing how much you truly want something, because the excitement fades. The road gets harder. The reality of the struggle settles in, and that's when most people leave. Not because they don't want it, but because staying requires a kind of strength they never practiced. The world celebrates starters. It claps for new beginnings, for fresh ideas, for brave first steps. But what it often forgets to mention is that starting is only the first breath of a very long journey. And the ones who make it to the end are rarely the loudest. They are the ones who stayed. Who held on when it would have been easier to let go. Who continued to walk when their feet were blistered, when their heart was heavy, when the path was lonely. Staying doesn't look glamorous. It doesn't shine. In fact, it's often quiet and unnoticed. It's waking up every day to fight the same battle. It's doing the work when no one sees. It's facing disappointment and still choosing not to run. That kind of consistency, that kind of loyalty to your dream, it doesn't scream. It endures. People don't fail because they aren't talented. They fail because they stop, because they lose patience, because somewhere along the way, the finish line feels too far, the reward feels too small, or the pain feels too much. But the truth is, every dream will ask you this one question. Are you willing to stay when it's hard? Not just once, but again and again. The ones who make it are not superhuman. They're not fearless. They're not untouched by doubt. They just refuse to let the hard days write the ending. They choose to stay through rejection, through slow progress, through criticism, through moments that break the spirit, because something inside them whispers this still matters. And they listen. You see, staying isn't about stubbornness, it's about devotion. It's about knowing your purpose and trusting that every hard day is part of the shaping process. It's about letting the journey refine you, not define you. Staying teaches you to be grounded, to build something deeper than success, something unshakable. It teaches you that progress is not always visible, but it is always happening if you remain faithful to the work. Most people are chasing the feeling of success, not the process. But true success is not a moment. It's a result of staying, of outlasting the voices that say it's not possible, of choosing to believe in the vision even when the world forgets it. And that kind of belief, that steady, unwavering belief, is what turns effort into excellence. The ones who stay write stories worth remembering, not because they never stumbled, but because they refused to stay down. They kept showing up, kept learning, kept building, kept believing. Staying is not about being the best. It's about being there when everyone else has left. It's about being the one who didn't walk away.